All right.
What's up, y'all? It's Sunday and it's time for another Throwing Light. I'm LTJ Reeds, and if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. Tonight we've got Roberto Cuero on here, who is very active in our New England community. We're going to get over there in just a little bit. I want to remind you guys that Throwing Light is here during this time of darkness to keep bringing all the things we need to make our community feel brighter. So I want everyone to have no fear no matter what the state of the world is, Throwing Light is going to be here to keep us going. And with that being said, let's jump in the interview. Roberto, so everyone, I believe besides having Marcus on here, you are the first IML judge, I believe, that I've had on the show since my IML journey. So that's cool, I guess, right? That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um, and you are also involved in an area, and one of my favorite IML brothers, Jack Keegan, has been Mr. New England Leather. That is, I love Jack. Jack is amazing. But it's great to have you here. Let's jump into this. Why don't you tell a little bit talk a little bit about how you got involved in the community and what got you to the present state that you are in now.
Sure. So my husband and I, we met in Madrid, wanted to move to Boston for grad school. When we were in Boston, sort of exploring the gay community, we never felt too included in a lot of the traditional gay nightclubs or bars of Boston. We always sort of were reminded that we're outsiders. Few people would speak to us, except at these kink parties called Fascination. Fascination Boston, it's I think they're probably celebrating now their 10-year anniversary. But it's parties that we started going to. It was bi-monthly on Fridays initially, at the basement of Jacques Cabaret, which is a legendary gay bar in Boston. Hosts a lot of drag shows, and in the basement is where these parties were held. And people there were incredibly welcoming, including us in a lot of their events, and we started slowly making friendships and becoming more involved with the community. It was a safe space to explore kink. Both my husband and I were both kink curious, but never felt necessarily wanted to belong to the community until we came across Fascination. So that was around 2017, and bit by bit, one of the people there who was most welcoming, Russ Sweeney, Mr. New England Leather 2017. And he was my mentor, the person who introduced me to the leather community, to the title world, to New England Leather, and so on. And from then on, it was a journey that we've both embarked and are incredibly excited of what's ahead of us, because for the past few years have been absolutely amazing to us, very transformative.
So, what particularly, you said you were in the community, the traditional gay community before the kink, and you said you felt like outsiders. Why was that? And you were kink curious at this point. What particularly about the community made you feel like an outsider?
It was a lot of it. It's Boston is, as much as it's a city that has you know dozens of universities and tens of thousands of students from all over the world. The the Boston itself is a relatively, there's a student population and there's the local population, and we were never felt, maybe because I don't know if my husband Carlos isn't that fluent in English, so maybe that was one of the factors that we just always constantly reminded, that had it not grown up in Boston, it felt different. We were never, nobody would come up to speak to us at clubs, or we would speak to other people, and it was very little interest, and not necessarily very welcoming. And I've heard from other outsiders from Boston that they feel that way, that it can be tough to make friends, and that wasn't the case in these fascination parties that's a pan kink and pan queer now party. So it was sort of like we found our home in fascination, and then from fascination on in the rest of the broader leather community.
So, I have heard that Boston is like much like the weather can get a very cold, like it can be very difficult to socialize and, break into finding a place that you fit in. I've heard that
Yeah,
definitely. I have only, let's see here. I have not been Boston recently. I want to say the last time I went to Boston was like 2013, maybe, or something like that. But I was
yeah,
went to Providence. So I took like a train, to Providence and back or whatever. But it's been a minute.
yeah.
But I am planning to hopefully come back. So you've been producing the New England Leather Contest, correct?
For the yes, this will be the third year.
Okay, this is your third year. Okay.
Yeah,
So
coming up next weekend is the contest.
right.
Yes,
Perfect timing. Everything
yes,
just
yes.
everything just always when you work with me, everything just comes together like magic. Just like magic.
It,
Um, so okay, I want to get into that. But before I want to get back to what led you into wanting to produce the New England Leather Contest.
so, firm believer of one should, if it's in one's heart, never step down, but step aside. And I was thinking, well, what could be one of the best ways to continue remaining engaged and active in the community? At the time, shortly after my step aside, the producers of New England Leather had been producing it for several years and honestly needed a break. So they reached out to me and to the first Mr. New England Leather, Steve DuPont from 2014, if we wanted to take on the production of the contest. And the timing was right, and we wanted to definitely continue the legacy, and would have hated to have seen the contest not continue. So we gladly accepted the invitation, and we've included a lot of other people in the team. The team is larger now. We've believe in sort of divide and conquer. The bigger the team, the more the voices, the more the perspectives, the more we can offer and make the weekend contest exciting and more diverse. So it's myself and total of six.
That's awesome. I have not like fully been able to experience what all goes into producing a contest, but I do. I have been kind of been a little bit, being involved in the Austin community, having friends that produce Austin King Weekend, and obviously friends that produce my contest, Mr. Austin Eagle, which I stepped aside a couple of weekends ago. Um, so I my first coming of knowing you and into existence, was
Mm-hmm.
being at IML, in which I was a part of IML class 46. So
Mm-hmm.
I was introduced you in what I perceive to be kind of a mentor role. And we haven't really gotten to like talk in depth or anything like that. But what was it like sitting on the IMO judges panel and having that experience?
Incredibly inspiring, particularly because 2 years after having been a contestant myself, when you're competing, yes, you're bonding a lot with your brothers and siblings. You are having your own incredible transformation and growth going through the experience, but you don't have as much of a broad lens and picture. You're not able to listen to all the interviews, and that's I think for me that's one of the most important parts is getting to know the contestants one on one, hear their perspectives, their platforms, their goals, their ambitions, and that ability to do that with the 59 of your class was just incredibly inspiring to see just so much passion and dedication in the community. And that was something that I knew I was going to expect because I've had that experience judging other contests when you get to interview contestants. But at that scale and the magnitude of 59, it was a treat. It was an incredible gift, and very inspiring and reigniting of the passion of why we do this, why we're here, why do we put in all this time and effort into the community, because it's nurturing in so many ways. So that was the best part of it.
It was an amazing journey to go through that. It's crazy that that is now about 6 months ago. I've tried to do a great job in letting IML be kind of a recognition of, of being in the community and representing it. I think walking away from it as definitely having the absolute amazing pleasure to be, and it's a pleasure now. It was at the time to be contestant number one with not a whole lot of experience behind my back, but like I got to stand on that stage, and I think after IML for me, it just kind of it's been very. I've been very busy, even with my step aside, but it just really. Um, it was a moment for people to take to celebrate, who we are in the community. And like I tell people, it's a contest of winners, and everyone
Yeah,
that in my class is just like, I mean, so deserving of just we were all so deserving of the experience, regardless of what we placed. That'll be
yeah.
a truly amazing thing that we will never be able to recreate. I'm hoping to spearhead our reunion for this next IML, but I've actually decided to step back. I've judged 4 contests now, and I've decided more to
Mhm.
step back and really dig into new ways to help the community now, especially since election time. And so I think that for me, my only trajectory is going to IML right now, and that being kind of working on trying to keep us inspired. I think right now, and doing that in my local community, I think is just really important because that's where we want to see change, right? Um,
Yeah.
so you producing this next contest, and we really don't know where the direction of our country is going to go in terms of the treatment of us. It's going to be hard for us as leather people. In terms that I tell people is that this is the worst time for us to let our stereotypes lead, and so I think we have to reprioritize our community's needs and desires right
Yeah.
now in
Hmm.
order to
Hmm.
so because they're coming at us in these very stereotypical ways, and
Yeah.
and it's something that we need to kind of we don't have time to put this off anymore. What is it like now? You're going to be producing this contest, and whoever you choose is going to be at the forefront for the community and tackling the issues that are coming up. When you are judging the New England or producing this, when you have your judges, what are some of the criteria that you look for in your contestants for anyone that's watching? What are the things that stand out that help select the winner every year?
So I mean, as you probably know, producers take or at least should take a step back and allow that the judges that they've invited trust in their judgment and the selection process. But obviously, each title producers of titles are looking for slightly different things or emphasize certain aspects. For us, it's one of the requirements of the title holder is to organize events. They don't have to be necessarily fundraisers. They can be socials or kink demos and so on. But it has to be in 3 different states within New England. And one of the things we're looking for is title holders who are show that are willing to do the work. It's not easy to organize events in 3 different states um, of throughout the region. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of time, willingness to partner with others. Say you live in Rhode Island, as Jack does. Jack has done an amazing job going all the way up to New Hampshire and doing events there. So that in itself requires somebody who's uh, doesn't have to be vested in the have been in the community for a long time, but definitely having a clear idea of what they'd like to do within their title year. To your point on the elections and the uncertainty of what's to come, I think in that sense, as producers, definitely back our title holder, the new title holder, whoever will be Jack Keegan's Sash son. Support them and provide our guidance. Most of us in the production team have been title holders. Can provide that wealth of experience. Obviously, Jack, as a Sash dad, will be incredibly supportive there. But be provided as much guidance of the new title holders we can and support through this difficult time. What the priority of the title year is up to the title holder. It's their experience, it's their year, it's their vision of that the judges have selected that should be the one be put forward. So producers are there to support, but not to necessarily tell the title holder what they should do.
There are some, sometimes there are conflicts with that, and I've known where sometimes contestants and producers have butt heads down here in Texas, but we are a little bit high on the drama side down here. So if you're looking for drama, we're top tier. We need a reality show. Actually, we would be top tier. So it's really cool hearing this experience. So post election now and kind of going into that, what do you think in terms of our community right now? How do you know, we don't really have time to grieve. You know what I'm saying? Like if we were going to grieve maybe the day after, but we should all be pretty mobile, like acting with a sense of urgency, in my opinion. Do you think there's any ways that we can start, making our community more prepared for what might likely come in the future?
Yes, I think there's so many fronts to tackle this. At least in the case of being in Massachusetts and New England, at the local and state level, most obviously there's differences throughout. Maine and New Hampshire being the most conservative out of in the region, but overall it's at the state and local level. We got less concerns than if we'd be in Texas with somebody like Greg Abbott as a governor.
Uh,
That being, sorry.
I know. I'm just saying. You said Greg Abbott.
Yeah,
Trust me,
yeah, yeah.
I have to deal with him.
So yeah. And I have, by the way, I have my mother's family is all from Texas. So actually, I go at least once a year to visit family there. So I try to stay connected and tune on what happens there. And going back to the point is, I think the priority will be as much as and I was saying at the state or local level, we shouldn't be as concerned, at least immediately for the New England community. At the federal level, I think the first line of attack from the new administration will be on trans rights, weaponizing the federal government and a federal aid or support of all our administrations on the condition of whether it's at the education level for public schools and receiving federal aid, universities receiving federal aid. I think there's already been talk about or insinuations from the new upcoming new administration to, unless they do certain provisions of removing DNI or any sort of gender affirming care or allowing trans folks to use the bathroom of their choosing, trans and non-binary folks. That's going to be the first line of attack from the federal government. And I think the best way to prepare is reaching out there to our trans and non-binary assemblies, letting them know that cis folks are there to support, are listening, and are willing to to join any protest, calling the politicians, fundraising if necessary to help know that they're not going through this alone. That we'll try as best as we can to console them, comfort them in their losses and in their anxiety, because I think it's going to be a that'll be the first line of attack. Also, a lot of our going back from a social perspective around a lot of conservative views, religious bigotry, a lot of judging of folks who are sex workers, a lot of course, judging of folks of our own sexuality and kink people. I think that's going to be a little line of attack. A lot of stigmatization coming from the federal government, and in that sense is not being afraid to go back into the closet, into the kink closet, not being afraid to not feeling falling under the pressure of this demonization that we're going to be receiving left and right in the media and coming from the federal government. So I think those are the two main things. A lot of the religious conservative side is LGBTQ people are groomers, and look at even at these kink people, they're even more of a type of groomer. And then on the other side is the attack on trans and non-binary rights. I know it's a big question, of course. Everybody's still thinking about it and wondering what could it be, and nobody has a crystal ball. But those to me are the two main issues that we need to be mentally prepared for and be willing to provide support each other as much as possible and
So
remain strong as a community to get us through these years.
I agree with everything you said. I mean, it's already, they're going to start saying they're only going to recognize two genders. It's already like we've got that might
Yeah.
into effect on day one. So this is going to be so much trauma on people, and it really sucks. But that's the way it is. I know it's going to be trauma because I've gone through a lot from racism that's put me in therapy. So I can't imagine.
Yeah.
So it's just like, so just so people are clear, I think there are 6 New England states, correct?
Yes.
Let me say,
Yes.
okay, so we got Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, Rhode Island, and
No.
Connecticut.
No. Instead of New York, Massachusetts. So we got the three to the
Oh,
north,
okay. I was
the
almost saying,
three to the
so not
north.
New York, Massachusetts.
Yes, almost. Got five out of
Almost.
six there.
I got most. These are traditionally blue states. So here's my fun question for you. Out of these,
Vermont, New Hampshire and Maine are blue, more are purple blue. Yeah,
so that's what I was going to say. What is the least progressive of the states, and what's the most progressive of the states?
probably the most progressive would be Vermont. I mean, Senator Bernie Sanders, as most people know, from Vermont. The least progressive, I don't know, New Hampshire or Maine. I mean, I wasn't born and raised here to know enough about the distinctions between the two, but um, either New Hampshire or New Maine would be the least progressive, and the most I would say is Vermont.
Okay, that's
Rhode Island or Massachusetts. Oh, yeah. There's probably pockets there, and that would be my guess. I
what
haven't
about
lived
Connecticut?
here since 2016.
What about Connecticut? And I know I have one of my IML brothers was Mr. Connecticut Leather. So
Yeah, Connecticut is it depends. There's my understanding. There's a lot of variances within Connecticut, but it's relatively blue. It's and to my understanding, it's also has strong protections for LGBTQ community relative to other states outside of New England. That's for sure.
human. I always tell people that the reason why New England is blue is because they've gone through it. They were there at the beginning. They've got all this history there. They've had all these social changes. They used to burn witches at the stake. They got past all of that. Now we're still going through that in Texas. Like we might go back to burning people at the stake. I don't know. I know that I am in one of the most arrogantly conservative states in the country over here. And I would love to be up there right now. I would love to be up there. So here's my question for everyone that comes on the show at the very end. What is some aspect of our community that you think we are not shedding enough light on, that we should be shedding light on?
Hmm. Um, it could be so many different aspects. I think one of the things that I depends on how you see it from a because our community, what defines our community, it's the we're queer and kinky. um that draws people from all backgrounds, race, gender, socioeconomic levels, and so on. One of the things I've appreciated the most of the kink and leather community is you're able to. It's such a like an innate nature, like being queer, that being kinky is like being queer. Like you got kinky and queer people all over the world, um, and if you remain in just like Boston can be incredibly segregated by class, by race, and so on. Kink can allow you to break. Being a part of the kink community, you're allowed to break that, or meet people from that you may not necessarily meet in your day to day, and thus we are that's a privilege of being able to come across people that you may be in a kink event, and you could have to your left somebody who's a struggle with homelessness, somebody who struggled with addiction, and mental health, and to your right you could have somebody who owns a mansion in two different in their regular home and their weekend home, and money's not a problem to them. So you're that in itself is that you're meeting so many people from all over. One should not take that for granted, and I think a lot of our community members are struggling financially, um, are struggling with a lot of other aspects in their life, and I think being acknowledging that the kink community is incredibly diverse, and by that therefore it's a privilege and an honor and a eye eye-opening experience, is thus to uplift us all in that process. It's like going back to what I said before, be there for each other, not just in the political context, upcoming political context, but also in general. It's you may not share you share stuff in kink outside of the kink world. Your lives may be very different, but that doesn't necessarily mean you cannot reach out to that person, um, outside of kink. I don't know if I'm explaining myself. It's something there that that's what I would pinpoint as well. So one of the things I enjoy a lot is one of the active members of the kink community in Providence. He's the founder of House of Kodak, and House of Kodak is it's provides shelter for LGBTQ homeless youth in Providence, Rhode Island. So that in itself, so the founder and I guess main general manager of House of Kodak is active in the leather community in Providence, but is also somebody who himself has experienced homelessness in his life, has this amazing nonprofit. So it's supporting things like that as well, in addition to our kink events and our kink demos and our classes and so on. That I think it's important to do, and to shed focus on. There's a lot of people in our community that are struggling in multiple ways. Be supportive of them.
I hear that. All right, Roberto. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of Throwing Light. Thank you so much for coming on here with your time. It's a great interview. So y'all, that's it. We are about to head out. Please tune in. Our next episode is actually going to be coming out on Tuesday. Stay tuned for that. But with that being said, y'all, remember this is throwing light. And if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. Thank you. Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you.